everybody is here in person. Thank you. Our first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the May 18th, 2021 meeting. I would entertain I got a motion by Bolkin, second by Neal. Any discussion? Mr. Peckham? Oh, you're just excited. All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nobody is. That passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, next up, item number 2, we have a public hearing, discussion and possible action on amending the general development plan at 1200 North River Drive to allow for 122 residential units and a 6,050 square feet of commercial space in a planned unit development zoning district that is with T-Wall Enterprise Management LLC. I don't know if you want to give us a little spiel on this.
Sure.
All right.
All right. Thanks. And I do see Nick Patterson from T-Wall is on WebEx as well. So the proposal is for T-Wall Enterprises out of Middleton to develop 3 mixed-use buildings down on the River Life area. This would be north of the stream that's down there. And the picture that's in the staff report showing up on the screen here is a previous general development plan, and it shows a former commercial building that was proposed that didn't come to fruition ultimately, but that'd be the location of one of the mixed-use buildings, and then 2 additional buildings on lots 7 and 8 that were created when we, remediated the site and put in the infrastructure down there. So T-Wall proposed 3 buildings on the 3 sites that were available, and the city accepted their proposal over another one that was received when we put out an RFP a few months back. So this part is to amend the general development plan of the zoning district to include these 3 mixed-use buildings. So the plans are in the packet for the general plan. I'll turn to those real quick. Again, you can see the 3 buildings that, line up with the lots that had been created before. They're not proposing to change any of the public amenities, the pathways, or the parking lots or anything. And again, fill in the lots that were available for development with mixed-use projects. So I guess that's just a quick introduction. I don't know if Nick wanted to add anything about the project.
Yeah, feel free, Mr. Patterson, if you'd like to give any more detail about this before I open the public hearing.
Yeah, I think Brad summarized it very well. I don't think we have too much to add. Just open for any questions.
Okay, thank you. With that, the public hearing is now open. I would invite anybody who'd like to speak about this to approach the podium. Is there anyone on the phone that wants to speak on this? Nope.
I don't believe so. I don't know who Karen Becker is, but I don't think.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. I'll ask for a second time. If there's anybody here who would like to address the Plan Commission with comments about the T-Wall development, please approach the podium. All right, last time, if there's anybody that would like to talk about the T-Wall development and address the Plan Commission, feel free. Okay, I am not seeing anybody that looks like they would like to talk about this, so I'm now closing the public hearing, and I think it's time for the possible action portion of this item. I would entertain a motion. I have a motion to approve the general development plan by Neal, and a second by Brugman. Any discussion here? I am not seeing. Oh.
Just a bit.
Yes.
I was a little confused with all the parking specs, and I had stuck in my head that you should have 1.5 stalls per unit. Are we going to get there, or are we needing to count some adjacent spaces, or how does that work? Are we good on the parking?
Yeah, that's one item that, we should discuss a little bit. The 1.5 isn't necessarily mandated in that, well, this zoning district is flexible, so the parking doesn't have to be 1.5. But even if it were in a standard zoning district for a mixed-use building, it's not necessarily 1.5 spaces per unit. There's actually a 25% reduction that could occur with mixed-use buildings in that parking requirement. So that, instead of 1.5, well, let's see, at 120 units with the mixed-use buildings, I think the calculation, and I'm referring to number 9 in the staff report, I got a little lengthy in this particular section, but, that count in a standard zoning district would be 135 spaces total. So I guess, with the buildings that they're being proposed with underground parking, there's 82 underground are covered, plus some spaces in the parking lots that are there now that are not, allocated to the public. There are some, there's 80 space. In a previous agreement, we needed to reserve 80 spaces that couldn't be counted towards a specific residential development. So out of the 104 spaces that are in these two parking lots, there's 24 that are available that could count to this development. So that brings us, closer to that 135. Again, the 135 is somewhat, it's a target, but it's not necessarily mandated in this zoning district. We could actually, in a standard zoning district, we could reduce that by 50%. The Plan Commission could, cut that down all the way in half, basically. But again, all of this is a planned unit development, so it is just up to us to determine the number of spaces. But between the underground and the surface lots, there's 104. If I'm trying to find the numbers in my staff report here. 82 plus, where am I here? 24 plus the 82, so 106 is what they have right there right now, not counting any other additional spaces. I guess I noted in the staff report that there are other options available if the Plan Commission does feel that there needs to be closer to that 135. I mean, there are spaces on River Drive now that could be, counted towards that max. There's open space down there where if it does become a problem, there are options to add off-street parking. I guess I wouldn't necessarily recommend that at this time. But, between the combination of underground, the existing lots, and some existing parking that's down there, I guess staff feels there is enough parking that can accommodate all of the buildings at this time.
If you had 122 residential units, and if you're shooting for 1.5 stalls per unit, that's 180 some spots.
Yep, we're actually not shooting for the 1.5 necessarily, because it's a mixed-use development. We can reduce that by 25% in mixed-use buildings.
Okay, is that prudent? I mean, we can do it, but we're going to have overflow and strife and chaos.
I haven't seen that result from a lack of parking in Wausau in my time here, so.
I've heard horror stories about Charlie Corner Flats, but are you thinking that if it does become an issue that there are spaces down there that we could convert to parking after, say this is up and running and we're 2 years down the road, if we needed more, we could find some?
Yeah, I mean, there's, on River Drive itself right now, there's the perpendicular spaces near Wow that aren't allocated to anyone in particular. There are also spaces south of this development on River Drive that could be used as, these would be on-street parking spaces. But then, the site overall is 17 acres and right now, there's only 2 buildings on it. So, I mean, there's space there and it's owned by the city, it could become surface parking lots. Again, the whole idea for this area is we didn't want to overbuild the surface parking right from the beginning because we're trying to build an urban active riverfront that's walkable. When you add surface parking, flies in the face of creating that environment. So, again, overbuilding it at the beginning, I think, is a bigger problem than underbuilding it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I'm not seeing any. I think we're ready to vote. All of those in favor of amending the general development plan at 1200 North River Drive to allow for 122 residential units and 6,050 square feet of commercial space in a planned unit development zoning district can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. We are on to item number 3, discussion and possible action on approving a conditional use at 360 and 372 Grand Avenue to allow for institutional residential land use, which includes a homeless shelter in an urban mixed-use zoning district. This is for Catholic Charities. I guess that, we're gonna pass it over to Sam, maybe?
Or I can.
Or
you want me to
Brad.
introduce-
Welcome, Sam.
Oh, yeah. Probably a good time to introduce Sam Wausau, our new
It's
assistant
a great
planner.
memo.
And he helped out with putting a lot of this together, but I told him I wouldn't put him on the spot.
okay.
yet.
Sorry.
Quite yet, but you did that for me, so I guess it's okay. But yeah, this was here last month for the public hearing, and there was no new substantial evidence presented at the public hearing. So there is a report of the findings in the packet. And again, this is for the warming center portion of the project. There's multiple aspects to the project, but the conditional use would just apply to the warming center part of it. So that's what we're acting on tonight, potentially. So I guess one of the conditions that we had in there was on the parking. Since there really isn't a lot of parking on the exact site, they would be entering into a parking agreement with the neighbors to provide that parking. So a condition on the approval that we're recommending is that this parking agreement is established and maintained for the operation of the use.
I see that
And
Kevin is, oh,
We
sorry.
have a couple, I was just gonna say, we have a couple people online. I didn't know if they needed to or wanted to
Sure.
speak to
I
it.
see Kevin is here. If you would like to give us any further comments, we'd love to hear from you.
Sure. Thank you again for your consideration of this conditional use. I just wanted to add that I did speak with the community partners, campus executive director, and some of the partners that are involved with making this happen in the Wausau community. And they are in negotiations right now with Thrive Church to secure a long-time parking plan. So I do know that is part of the overall campus idea. So they're working to make that happen, and it should be soon, I was told, so.
Okay, that's great. I see Roberto joined us. I don't know if you have anything to add, but we don't,
No, thank you very much. I don't have anything to add.
okay, perfect. So I guess I will look to the will. I see a motion by Mr. Peckham.
Yeah, I would move to approve with the suggested condition of securing an agreement for the additional parking.
All right, we have a motion and a second. By Borneman, do we have any discussion or questions we'd like answered? I feel pretty good about this. Okay, I don't see any questions, so the motion we're voting on is approving the conditional use at 360 and 372 Grand Avenue to allow for institutional residential land use, which includes a homeless shelter in an urban mixed-use zoning district with the recommended long-term parking agreement between Catholic Charities and their neighbors. All of those in favor can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We are now on to item number 4, discussion and possible action on approving the specific implementation plan at 1520 and 1601 Elm Street to allow for a new mixed-use apartment development in a planned unit development zoning district. This is from Lockery. Want to kick us off?
Sure, thanks. So this is it's being called the Banter Mixed-Use Development. It's the former Mountain Lanes site, well, part of it's down the hill from Mountain Lanes. The other part is on the former Plaza Hotel that was demolished. So this would be on either side of Elm Street. The building would be on the north side of Elm Street by the hotel. The overflow parking would be south of Elm Street in an existing parking lot. And I guess the one thing that we did note in this one was the parking lot and its design, and just the fact that, we should, or staff recommends that when they approve, or when they come in for a permit for the parking lot, which they would need, that the parking lot follows our normal standard zoning guidelines, which would include landscaping and pedestrian accommodations within that lot. And they're not really being shown on the specific plan here, but we do recommend that be looked at by staff, in conformance with our existing zoning code for other districts. Because again, this is flexible, it's a PUD, so there aren't really any fixed standards, but we do have standards in our other zoning districts that we feel that this parking lot should follow, just like other parking lots in the city. So that was the one condition that we had, I believe. And then I guess another thing we talked about was related to the pedestrian circulation was a crossing of Elm Street to get between this overflow lot and the main building across Elm. There could be, some back and forth traffic across Elm Street. So we think that would be warranted, some sort of crossing of Elm Street. I guess we would recommend that they work with our engineering department on putting in that crossing across Elm Street.
Making sure everyone is safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. And we do have Jay here, the architect, if I guess he wants to add anything, or if anyone has specific questions. I'm here for questions. Okay.
Okay, maybe before we ask questions, I would take a motion so we can start discussing this.
Motion to approve
I
the
have a-
landscape provision.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
And I have a second.
I have a question.
And Mr. Peckham, you have a question? I'd love to hear
The
it.
crossing, would, like mid-block, we're talking paint on the street or curb cuts or both, or?
I think potentially it could be a controlled crossing, depending on what the warrants and stuff. So I think if the developer works with engineering, we could come up with something that would meet all of MUTCD guidelines. Whether it's the flashing beacons that we have, push a button. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we are ready to vote on approving the specific implementation plan at 1520 and 1601 Elm Street to allow for a new mixed-use apartment development in a planned unit development zoning district, providing the developer works with engineering on that crossing, and the developer also works on the parking lot standards with our planning department. All those in favor can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, that passes. Thank you. We are cooking. Next item is discussion and possible action on vacating and discontinuing an unpaved alley lying west of 827 Turner Street between North 8th Street and Augusta Avenue.
You want to take this one?
Yeah, this is a petition came in. This went through SISM. It's a alley portion that they're asking to have vacated. As you can see on the map, it's just the one lot on the east side that alley will remain. The rest of it will be turned back over to the homeowners, the property.
Okay. I have a motion by Bergman to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Bulkin. Any discussion or questions? Okay, all of those in favor of approving vacating and discontinuing the unpaved alley lying west of 827 Turner Street between North 8th Street and Augusta Avenue can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, that passes. Thank you. Item number 6, that will go to council on the 13th of July. Next item on our agenda is discussion and possible action on a petition for annexation of Grundman. That looks like 082-2808-062-0994 in the town of Weston. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a individual who wants to develop this parcel with a home, and they're requesting annexation, as they want water and sewer, so.
So say we all. I have a motion by Brugman to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Borneman. Any discussion? Mr. Peckham?
So if you turn off Town Line and go on Northwestern, you go past that power plant gizmo, and then the city owns some land, and then there's this piece?
I think the city of, that's just the town, or the village, the municipal boundary.
Oh,
Right.
Because it's
Yeah.
not the parcel, it's the.
somebody else owns the piece between all the transformers and this guy?
Yeah, I think that's Kraft, if I'm not mistaken.
Kraft owns that, and that's where they've got their little parking pull-off and stuff like that?
I believe so. I mean, you
Okay.
can take a look at a map here. I know there is an apartment building to the north of this parcel that comes off a town line. But exactly is this the area you're referring to here, this,
Yeah,
where the bend in the road is? Yeah, I don't know exactly what is there.
so it's marked as to what municipality it's in, but not necessarily who owns it.
Correct, yeah, the shaded
Right.
area is the town of Weston, the white is the city of Wausau.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you. Any other
That gets me
questions or
close.
comments? Mr. Borneman?
Just a question, when it does become part of the city, what does it come in zoned as? Or is that going to come back?
That's a good question. Yeah, the zoning does need to be established. I mean, the default zoning is like a single-family
Okay.
residential district, so I think that's what they're planning there.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
They may
Yeah.
not need the zoning change, but otherwise they would need to come back to
But it comes
establish.
in as
That's,
residential, and if they want something different, they got to come back before us?
yes, yeah, yeah, that default. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all of those in favor of approving the petition for annexation for Grundman on 082-2808-062-0994 in the town of Weston can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, that heads to council on July 13th. Thank you. Item number 7, next meeting date and future agenda items for consideration. The next meeting date is July 20th. I don't know if we have future items for consideration to
I'm
alert folks to.
Sure, we'll find some, don't know.
Okay, we will have some future agenda items, so if you're not, if you were, I would entertain the last item on our agenda to adjourn. A motion by Bulkin, second by Brugman. All those in favor can signify by saying aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.